NFL. Yeah, you can see Joe Duffy's picks is on fire, but why don't we give you some of the sharp versus square information for the NFL action today. Biggest public consensus moves in terms of bet. Again, this is the exact intel that contrarian bettors use. A lot of people say that you want to bet against the public, and therefore the contrarian bettors would bet against each one of these teams. These are the most popular bets in terms of bet. Baltimore, Detroit, Seattle, and the New York Giants. And these are posted right now at joeduffy.net. And once again, that's purely percentage. So in other words, a $15 bet counts the same as a $15,000 bet. But contrarian bettors will tell you, yeah, those very small players, the Joey Bag of Donuts, they are the best source for contrarian information. Even some would argue a $15 bet should be weighed heavier than a $15,000 bet. Most lopsided bets in terms of percentage of money, and therefore the biggest sportsbook liabilities today. The sportsbooks are rooting against these teams. All the big money on Detroit, Baltimore, Seattle. And we do have one game that qualifies as a sharp versus square move for today in the NFL. It is to go with Jacksonville. Once again, Jacksonville. Some critical NFL injuries for the Sunday night game. Looks like San Francisco, a bunch of guys that were considered questionable early in the week are going to play. George Kittle, tight end, and then two wide receivers, Emmanuel Sanders and Deebo Samuel. Patriots quarterback Tom Brady is going to start. By the way, we have a humongous play in that game at Joe Duffy's Picks, as you can see on the screen, unless you're listening to the podcast, but humongous play on that, and we're red hot, and we'll tell you about it more in a moment. But Mohamed Sanu, recently acquired wide receiver, limited, practiced very little this week. Not a full workload is expected. Seahawks defensive end Jadeveon Clowney is expected to play through some pain. Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver Alshon Jeffrey is probable, but Nelson Aguilar is doubtful. Running back Jordan Howard is also doubtful. Howard, a nice acquisition, 525 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns rushing, and 1 receiving. Jeffrey, 34 catches for 353 yards. Redskins running back Adrian Peterson is considered probable. We're going to get to weather in a moment. Folks, there's really no other way to say it. Joe Duffy's Picks, simply put, the best in the industry. It was that case last decade, the decade before that. Winning publicly since 1988. Latest, I'm doing 13-3. Overall, 15-7 NFL. NFL Game of the Year does go early. Then the Fox Sports Center Conference Game of the Year. Dallas and New England. 2 name plays in the same day. Yeah, that's right. I got 12 NFL and 2 NBA. I win more than anyone else because I work harder and I've got the best computer software in the world. You're either betting with us or you're subsidizing us. Joe Duffy's Picks at offshoreinsiders.com. There is a 66% chance of rain on the Dallas and New England game. Now remember, the keyest, the most important thing when it comes to weather is wind speed. And that very much affects the total more than anything. We actually got 5 games right around the 15 to 16 mile per hour, which is kind of our minimum where it becomes significant. Miami, Cleveland, Oakland and the Jets, Seattle and Philadelphia each expect about 15 mile per hour winds, and 1 more mile per hour each for Denver and the Buffalo game, Detroit and Washington. Got a free pick for today, and in fact, we put this up last night. Let's just check the latest. Yeah, still very similar line. Dallas and Houston. Now, Houston, and yeah, we've been doing this. Okay, should we were asked a question. Let's see this software. I think I should be able to post this, but the real Brandon. Yeah, do we have a day pass? You better believe it. Visit offshoreinsiders.com for Joe Duffy's Picks. We do have a day pass, and it's a mere $21, so you can get all that we said, NFL and 2 NBA, including those 2 name plays. We look forward to, Brandon, if you've never gotten a play from us before, and I guess based on that question, I'm going to say pretty good chance you haven't. We look forward to you beginning the rest of your gambling life. Houston and Dallas in the NBA. Houston followed an 8-game winning streak with consecutive losses. But favorites are a pick-em in said situation, a solid 36-31. Nothing special, but what it does tell you is that teams bounce back. Now, Dallas won four straight, but they're hitting the road. Listen to this. Fading underdogs of 5 or more with 4 or more game winning streak is 342, 244, and 18. 67.9% when we're riding. The team we're riding has a 2 or more game losing streak. Free winning pick is to go with Houston in the NBA. Once again, Houston in the NBA. We got another NBA winner for you. Pelicans and the Clippers. New Orleans has won 3 straight, but fading road dogs of 7 or more in a winning streak like that, a very impressive 321, 237, and 9. And we're going to fade that. We're going to go with the LA Clippers. Once again, the LA Clippers is your free winner. Now, the top NFL teams in terms of margin of cover. Margin of cover, some people call it sweat barometer. It's how much you do cover by or not cover by, whatever the case is. Now, interestingly enough, Baltimore, despite a 5-5 record, covering by an average of 9.9 points per game. San Fran, they're 5-4-1, but they are covering by an average of 9.2. And what that tells us is, look, when they're not covering, they're barely not covering. When they are covering, they're covering by large margins. So these will tell you these teams have been better than their spread records indicate. New England, a very impressive 7-3 ATS record, but they're only covering, well, only relative, but their third best margin to cover in the league at 7 points per game. Minnesota, they're 6-5, but they're covering by an average of 3.1. Now, these teams have been the best to bet against. Cincinnati, 4-6 against the spread, but they're failing to cover by an average of 6.5 points per game. Washington and the New York Giants, both 3-7. Washington minus 5.8. The Giants minus 4.8. Miami at 5-5. They're failing to cover by an average of 4.5. Cleveland, 3-6-1. They're failing to cover by an average of 3.3 points per game. Now remember, if you're betting Joe Duffy's picks, you definitely need a sports book that pays you on time each and every time. That's what MyBookie does. And in fact, every single sports book that is featured on offshoreinsiders.com has been very thoroughly vetted. You get up to a $1,000 bonus for a first-time deposit. Play with Bitcoin. Get the fastest payouts. Totally professionals run MyBookie.ag. Look, I've been in this business really since 1986. I always say 1988. That's when I did it full-time. I was in college and was working for Dial Sports back in like 86. But anyway, I built up a great reputation. I'm not going to throw it down the toilet by sending you to a crappy sports book. I use MyBookie.ag. They pay on time. Fast cash payouts. You want to make a deposit or redeposit? Bitcoin, piece of cake. Please use the promo code Duffy, MyBookie.ag, to ensure you get the largest sign-up bonus.